Welcome everyone who's joining us. I'm so excited to have you with us. In a moment, we're going to have some prompts coming to you in chat, so hang on to that. As you can see, we're going to be talking about creative courage, and that's what you signed up for today. Because we are in the business of courage here at SoulSalt. If you're coming on, we really appreciate those of you who are on mute. Makes our meeting more efficient and effective. We're also appreciative if you have the ability to come on camera. Also makes us feel like we get to see the beautiful faces that we know and love, and some new ones that we are just meeting today. Now, I'm going to just tell you how come we're here. I have had the opportunity to meet Liya James and to work with Liya professionally for my own benefit. And I'm going to be a little transparent. Some of you know my story well. Some of you know of my story. Some of you don't know my story. One of the things that I want to share with you is I have done a lot of healing work, and there's always more to do. But I've done a lot of healing work in the last couple of years about integrating parts of myself that I don't feel got completely healed. And I've done talk therapy. I've done some hypnotherapy. And I've integrated pieces that I felt like had been abandoned or that were still kind of the wounded child. When I met Liya and I understood what her modality was, I was really interested in doing a deep dive into how could I improve my mental health? How could I improve my capacity to be my best self? And examine some of my beliefs. And so there was a little part of me that had not been integrated from age 3. There's a part of me that had something very traumatic happen between my mother and myself. And I'd worked on this piece of me, but lo and behold, it had not integrated. And in a session with Liya, this little part of me that had felt wounded and left out, all of a sudden clicked in gear, came inside, began to feel safe and integrated. And from that moment on, I have had more confidence. I've been able to reach into my competence. I feel like that part of me is not dragging me behind. And it was related to a belief that I was carrying around about myself. I had a personal shift that was seismic. And this is one of the reasons that we invited Liya on. Another reason is that we are expanding our team here at SoulSalt to be around things like business and overall wellness and career reinvention. And so Liya is one of those individuals that's being invited to be part of our staff and be available for our beloved clients and those that we work with, because it's very hard to get coaching to move forward if the person is still stuck in the past. And so Liya has a superpower of being able to assist you to bust through some of those beliefs that are holding you back. Now, to let you know a little bit about her, she's already had success in her career. She is a career person with leadership and business background. She is a woman who has been able to run multi-million-dollar companies. And she brings with her a bunch of experience in the business world, in design and technology. And really where she's coming from right now is she is in a position where she has done some healing work herself and has become certified in the somatic healing, where she is now able to translate all of those great things she's learned about herself and the business success into being an actual healer. So you're going to get to see her in action. You're going to get to see her as a courage advisor and a coach. Her unique background comes to this pinnacle today, as you're going to actually get to see her working with someone from our hometown here and our SoulSalt network. So Liya, with that, I feel like I just need to turn it over to you and let you run with this. Would you tell us a little bit about what this idea is, creative courage is, and where you're going to take us today?
Yeah, so this idea of creative courage is something I've developed specifically when I started doing work with my clients. And I'm going to bring up I don't have a lot of slides today, but I will bring a couple up. And I'm going to ask you to walk this with me. Okay. So I define creative courage as the ability to alchemize obstacles into a desired reality. I know it's a mouthful. I'm working on it. Maybe Lynn will help me simplify it someday. But so people who have creative courage take risks. They're not afraid to have unreasonable visions. Okay. Mine was going from poverty to being an entrepreneur, trying out of the box ideas. I've helped lots of people do that in my 20-year career, and be authentically themselves. And that's the hard one. Okay. Now, external factors and life circumstances don't determine if these people try or not, if they succeed or not. I'm a living example of this, frankly, Lynn. I shouldn't even be here talking to you today. I should be living.
Right? We should have even met each other. This should not have happened.
No, I should be living on the street somewhere or working in a factory in China if life circumstances determine outcomes, right? And unfortunately, this is what I discovered when I started to work with folks one-on-one, is that most people think their biggest obstacles are external. They think it's the company, the leadership, the economy. They think it's something other than what's inside. But really, people who accomplish and succeed in their lives, and they do it with joy, they know that the biggest obstacles we face when we do brave things are almost always internal. They're almost always internal. I see heads nodding. I love it. I know we got the right people here in the room. So this is how they show up. And it's really important to notice how they show up, these internal obstacles, okay? They show up as voices inside. We don't always notice them. But let's say we're about to take a risk, like you're leading a big project. You just got a big promotion and everyone's watching and the stakes are high, right? Maybe you're confronted with this voice that says, and this is my old voice. Oh, I have to do it myself if I want it to be done right. I want to make sure we succeed. So what do? What did I do? I micromanaged. I worked so much all the time. I got extremely tired. I couldn't keep going anymore. Sometimes these obstacles show up as bodily discomfort. And it might be, let's say, another one of mine. I'm just going to keep talking about, and a lot of my clients have this one too. Let's say you have a different perspective, right? You're in these meetings all the time. You have a different perspective. And just when you say, you know what, I should say something, you freeze up. Because voices are saying, don't do that. If you take this risk, they might think you're weird. And I'm weird. I think things differently. My brain works different from most people. So that happened to me a lot. I freeze. And when this happens a lot, what happens is we suffer from the pain. I know someone wanted the superpower of alleviating pain. This is a pain a lot of us experience. We suffer the pain of not being fully ourselves or fully self-expressed. And often that's at work. Sometimes it's at home too. And that's awful way to live. We don't like it. We think maybe, we just put up with it. It's okay, but no, it will come to a place where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not willing, right? So creative courage is being willing to notice that this is happening and explore these inner obstacles, befriend them, understand them. That's the secret. So I'm giving you the secret already. And the rest of this time, we're just going to, talk about how to do it. Now, I have the word alchemy earlier, right? I want to just kind of put a fine point on that. The alchemy happens during this befriending process I'm talking about. And I have step by step for you later. Don't worry about figuring it out yourself. What happens during this befriending process of the voices is that they start to soften. And the effects they have on you, like if they were like my voices were like gates. I mean, it was like you could not push through them, you could not kick them down. They were so strong. If they start to dissolve and soften, what happens is we start to feel like, oh my God, I feel like I'm like the big version of myself that I've always wanted to be. I have the capability to do big things without like, having to push and willpower it and take more courses and do more training, like I actually let myself shine, and then I can take risks. I create results in my life much faster with much less pain, and I'm less alone doing it because, people that live this way, people are drawn to them. They want to play on their team because they're like, whatever you figured out, I want that too, right? So now most people are going to say those voices, ignore them, challenge them, tell them they're not right, power through it. But that doesn't work. Why doesn't that work? Because those voices are a part of you. They're a very, very important part of you. They may have been with you for a long time. Some of my voices sound like my mother. She lived in fear a lot. I mean, she had to escape the Cultural Revolution. So she has the right to have protective parts that are making sure that she survived, right? But there comes a point when those voices don't serve anymore, right? You're trying to break through, trying to level up, and they don't serve. But we have to acknowledge that they come from a good place. They're not the enemies. What you want to do is look deeper, understand what's underneath that voice or the discomfort that comes up, to be able to notice when they're happening. And if you can do this, what happens is you get access to what we call inner wisdom. I hear my clients say this a lot, like, I want clarity, right? And I'm looking at everybody's the pictures, the videos I can, the faces I can see, I can tell this is not your first rodeo, right? You guys are experienced, accomplished people. If you know Lynn, you probably are. I know her network. So it's, the inner wisdom is there, and it's really, really important that we're able to access it. Because what happens when you do that is you can take authentic action. The bad boss, the problematic coworker, the team member that just like won't perform for some reason, or the inefficient system or work processes that won't change in our lifetime. They're not going to be the barriers anymore, because we're going to have the courage to get creative and find ways to create what we want despite these external barriers. You're not going to be stuck. And I hear people say this so much. I'm stuck. I feel stuck. So instead of pushing through and listen to these other advice about, just tell the voice it's not wrong, it's not right, what we want to do is we pause and do this crazy thing that I actually just did before I came on this call, which is to have a conversation with the voices and the discomfort. And what you do if you follow this process I'm going to show you is you'll always gain a new perspective. And we're going to live into our power and be our full selves while we're creating whatever life that we want. And we want to create it easily, right? We want to enjoy the journey as well as the destination, because we all know where the destination is, the real destination, right? So we really do want to enjoy this journey. So that's my little spiel about what creative courage is. Does this sound like something everyone came for? You want it? You want to learn how to do it?
Yeah, I've seen nodded heads. Yes.
Awesome.
So is this a good time to talk about how you and Kesley came together?
Yeah, I mean, you put us together. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I do. So the background that you don't get to see, but if you ever work with Liya, you will understand, is she literally did escape a fate that would have encapsulated her and kept her captive in China. Something that she didn't have control over. She came through that, rose herself up by her bootstraps, has been successful at business more than once, and has landed now in this soft, beautiful place where she is, of having created a healing modality that is so effective as changing lives. We have Kesley, who I have championed and admired, as she is one of those individuals, like many of you on this call, who knows that where you are is not good enough and that you have a better, bigger, stronger version of yourself that you want to plug into. And it's not only you, it's the way you interface with the world around you that you're looking for that support so that you're stronger there. And so for your benefit, we have the world of Liya and the world of Kesley coming together so that we can actually have a demonstration of this beautiful work called Creative Courage. So Kesley, come off of mute, and you and Liya, take it away.
Yeah, so what we want to do is actually show you guys and demo to you live. I have no idea what Cassidy's bringing to us today. So talk about creative courage. I am scared to death what we're going to do.
Me too.
But I trust the process, and I'm going to do it for you. And then we're going to debrief afterwards. I have a couple more slides just to show you what the 4 steps look like afterwards. And we'll kind of replay what happened, okay? And we're not looking for perfect here. We're just trying to demonstrate the process. So Cassidy, what are you working on? How can I help?
Yeah, so I was thinking about an experience I had a couple weeks ago, actually, where I walked into a room of people. It was professionals. It was at a big conference, and I walked into a big room, and I didn't recognize anybody, and everybody was already kind of paired up, chatting. It was sort of a networking event, and really, just my inner critic was just like, "Run, go back to your room, hide. Don't belong in this network event. You don't belong here. You're not a part of this." Sort of I kind of felt like an imposter, right?
Mhm,
And I
mhm,
wanted to kind of run away from this experience rather than diving in, and it was kind of an uncomfortable situation. So I felt
mhm,
super nervous, and really just those feelings of not being good enough.
mhm, mhm. Great. So this is perfect. We can work with this, and I think it'll be really, I don't think fun is the word we should use, but it'll be illuminating. So, one thing I want to say to everybody on the call is that Kesley is extremely courageous. She's doing this for our benefit, so we can kind of see how it works in live. I don't know where we're going to go in this process. It may go pretty deep. Okay. So, what I want to just kind of say out loud right now is please keep this experience confident, private. Let's respect Casley's, willingness to share with us all, probably pretty vulnerably. Already she's doing that. So, so there's a 4-step process, and Cassidy, what I'm going to take you through is kind of noticing. Step 1 is notice the discomfort. And then we're going to get curious about the voices that are coming up. And then we're going to practice self-compassion. And then at the end, what I want to do is create a shift. I want to see if we can get there. If we don't, that's okay. Okay. No pressure on you. It's all the pressure's on me. All right. Okay. So I'm going to have you just close your eyes with me, and we're going to turn inward. Okay. Close your eyes. Take some deep breaths all the way into the belly. Empty it out. And then we're going to take a deep breath, count to 4. Let it out slowly to 8. Do that a couple of times and just land here in this moment. Slowing down the nervous system. And just say back to you what you said to me. Bring it to present. You're at the networking event, at the conference. You feel nervous. See if you can bring that image to present with you. and you started to feel like an imposter. You want to run away. And if you could just let me know as that event is more and more real and you're breathing into it. Notice any discomfort that's coming up in your body. And let me know what you're noticing.
I feel like I want to roll my shoulders inward. I want to make myself small.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a little shaky and insecure. I feel
Yeah.
clumsy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very
I
good.
don't want anybody to see me.
Yeah. And where in the body are these sensations? In the shoulder,
Yeah,
the
mostly the
shakiness?
upper chest area.
Gotcha. Yeah. Perfect. You're doing great. And we're just going to listen to those sensations, okay? We're going to get in touch with them and we're going to listen. And we want to ask the sensations to take us back to the first time you ever felt them. See if you can locate an age, how old you are.
I'm really young.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Kindergarten, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You can say as much as you want or as little as you want to me. I will guide you through this. So I'm going to drop into an event in kindergarten. Drop into an event that's associated with this discomfort. And I just want you to notice with your adult eyes what's happening around you. Okay? And you can say tell me as little or as much you feel comfortable telling me. But I want you to have the experience fully. Drop into an event and look around with your adult eye.
I'm scared to talk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want the teacher to see me.
Yeah.
I don't want to be there. I don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know how to react to people. I don't know how to talk to people. I don't know anybody there.
Mm.
I don't feel like I have a friend. I'm alone. I'm alone in a room with people.
Yeah. So I want to see if you can make a connection with 5, 6-year-old Kesley in that room and quietly just have your own experience with her. You don't have to tell us what you're doing. I want you to connect with her and just ask her what she needs from you to feel safer, to feel more confident, to not feel alone, and do whatever she needs from you.
I really needed like a big sister there, a big brother to tell me what to do, to show me how to navigate,
Yeah.
to help me feel safe, to let me know it was okay.
And I want you to look in her eyes and give her some gratitude too. Okay? That's perfect. I want you to let her know that you're there for her now. You're the big sister. She's not alone. And then I want you to tell her how brave she's been. Being quiet, ask her if being quiet, running away was her way of protecting you.
She thought that's what she needed to do to
Yeah,
keep me safe.
yeah.
She thought that was the right response.
Mm-hmm. Is it okay with you, Kesley, if we don't judge that or try to fix her? But just see how brave she was.
Very brave. She just didn't know any better.
Yeah, she
She
didn't
didn't
know.
have an alternative to the solution.
Mhm. Now I want you to float up above the event that you're in and look down at it. And I want you to think about that conference, that room. And now that you are able to see the event, both the conference and the kindergarten, I want you to see clearly what's going on. And just tell me, has your perception changed at all about these events, about yourself?
They feel really similar,
Mm-hmm.
um, just in a different area,
Yeah,
but I had the same sensation.
yeah.
But now I know. I wish I could tell her back then that it was okay, that even though it was uncomfortable, it's not dangerous or scary.
No. Yeah,
But it feels very much the same, only the people are bigger and maybe louder.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, if that's the case, I want you to look in her eyes and give her some advice. Let her know, as the adult you, what's really happening.
I think it felt very alone, but I
Mhm.
think a lot of other people probably feel the same way.
Mm,
And I feel awkward because I don't know how to respond and I'm scared.
yeah,
I'm scared of doing something wrong. I'm scared of getting yelled at. I'm scared of something bad happening.
yeah.
But I've never had it happen.
Oh, that's really interesting.
My
Yeah.
fear of what may happen hasn't happened.
Hmm. Yeah. What I want you to do is really connect with her and let her know that what she's scared of might happen hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened. And even in that big room as adults, I see people who are also standing alone and don't know what to do,
Ah,
who look lonely,
wow.
who don't have anybody to talk to. And I see the
Yeah.
same people in the kindergarten class.
Yeah.
They're scared too.
Hmm. What do you want to do for the little ones that are scared?
I want her to know that it's okay.
It's
I don't
okay.
I don't need to be frightened. And even though I was very scared,
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
it's okay. I'm not alone. I have myself. And it's
Yeah.
enough. It's enough to be just yourself.
Yeah. Kesley, the next time you find yourself in a room like that, I want to ask that part of you that's scared and feeling alone and nervous, what would it take for you to go up to another person who's maybe also scared and alone and nervous and start a conversation? What would it take for you to take that risk, for you to feel okay about that?
She needs to understand that she's got this.
Mm-hmm.
She's so much stronger than people told her she was.
Mm-hmm.
She can accomplish things that people didn't think were possible for her.
Yeah, you
And
have.
even if people aren't accepting or people don't talk back, it doesn't matter. I'm
Mm-mm.
enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm enough, and I deserve to be there just as much as anybody else does. Dang it.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to
Yes,
take up space in the room, and I'm allowed to make noise, and it's okay.
you are. Damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I I have the right to be seen and heard too.
you do. So if we were working together, we would have 40 more minutes and we're going to really sink this in. I'm going to integrate her and we're going to do a bunch of other things. And I have a future healing that I want to do with you. Once we'll schedule some time to do all of this. But we do have to come back to now. But I don't want you to end this experience without first giving her a lot of compassion. So I want to close your eyes again and give her a hug. And then I want you to integrate all of this learning about you can take risks to be seen, to be heard, to occupy a space. Let this courage lodge into your heart and fully integrate. We'll come back and work with it another time. And I want you to come up above the event and come back to now. And slowly open your eyes and come back to the room with us.
Wow, it's very emotional.
I did this before. I'm gonna, because you're being vulnerable, I'll do the same. So I'm gonna talk about actually what I did. I was crying before I hopped on this call as well, Kesley. So thank you so much. I have so much gratitude for you being willing to share that with us. So for everyone else on the call, I'll tell you an experience I had just before this. So Lynn had mentioned that I don't come from this country. So I had to learn, basically, I was an award-winning writer before I moved here, but I wrote in Chinese. When I moved here when I was 14, I had to learn like how to speak like a baby again in another language. And so this is a model that actually I've had to use a lot whenever I get in front of a bunch of people and I have to speak in any form, okay? So preparing for this, I went through the same steps that Kesley was going through with us just now. So I'm about to take a risk, right? I'm about to take a risk, get in front of you guys, share something that's really important to me that I think will help a lot of people. This is my life's work. So I have no choice. No one will know about this amazing method that I developed if I don't go talk about it, right? So I had to go through my steps in order to be here. So I have these protective parts that try to save me from embarrassment, just like you, Kesley, that were trying to save you, protect you from not feeling safe, right? And I have my parts that were trying to protect me from embarrassing myself. Because when I was 14, I moved here, knew zero English, and went to school, and kids made fun of me a lot. And so I started to develop this armor that protects me. So I learned to smile and not say anything. And these parts are really strong because they really don't want me to get hurt again. So right before this webinar, I had to sit in my meditation cushion, and I went through my 4 steps. I'm about to take a risk. The inner narrators are coming online. The discomfort's like here and here. It's everywhere here, right? Choking. I'm like, I won't be able to say one word to these people, and Lynn's never going to talk to me again. And, I'm going to try to guide Kesley through this really vulnerable experience. She's so bravely, and I won't even know what to ask her. Like, I mean, the voices were just like boom, 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 and it's all there because it's like they don't want me to lose this really important relationship I've developed with Lynn and Kesley, and getting to know you guys and sharing this really important thing. So I sat on that cushion, and that 14-year-old came up and a 21-year-old came up, and we were all over there bawling because I'm like, thank you so much for being so strong and having the courage to do these things anyway, even when it was so uncomfortable when you did them. And now you don't have to, because we have a way of doing it with joy and trust and authenticity. So instead of kicking into my automatic scripts, the red path, which I've done for 20 years, I decided I'm going to practice my creative courage. So I'm here creating my desired reality with you. You're the first people I'm sharing this method with, right? And so, I mean, I share with my clients privately, but this is the first time in a public forum that I'm sharing it. And these are the 4 steps I set on the cushion, and that's what I took Kesley through. Step 1 is noticing the discomfort when you're about to take a risk, you're about to power up, you're about to level up, you're about to speak up at that meeting or sit at that negotiating table, being the most powerful version of you, right? Even if the guy on the other, the gal or guy on the other side is way more powerful and way more accomplished. When you're about to send that first draft of something to a collaborator and you're afraid they're going to be like, this sucks, right? When those things are coming up, we notice our discomfort. Where is it? Because that bodily discomfort or sensation is gonna lead us back to that first time they were created. The body keeps the score, right? Like Bessel van der Kolk's book, is that his book? I always get these authors confused. So the body knows when it was first created because it's stuck in there. And this belief architecture has been reinforced over many, many, many years with these automatic reactions that we have to protect ourselves. So we get curious about that. When was the first time? And actually, I'm going to get to the next slide that has more details. So we get curious about it. We listen like a good friend, like a good parent, a good sister, brother, someone we love. We treat that part of us, of ourselves, that part of ourselves, like we should, you know, love them. We love them. We listen. We listen to people we love, and we notice what's happening, and we ask questions, and we really tune into their experience when these things were happening and we were developing the fear, right? And then we're going to practice step 3 is self-compassion. And that's what the alchemy happens, remember? So we learn about how we develop the belief, we listen, and then we don't judge. That's so hard.
Can I ask a question, Liya?
Yeah.
Yes. While you're here, would you talk, and you can talk now or in the future, about where these voices originate? Because I know everybody on the call has these voices. So tuck that in and tell us about that as you go through this, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let me finish the step 4, and then I actually have a slide about this. So perfect. Thank you for teeing that up. So we don't judge, we actually give gratitude. And that's when those parts of us are actually going to step back, because they're like, oh, I am safe now. You see me. You see my experience. We're integrating. We're meeting again. We're reconnecting. That's what we mean when we say we reconnect with ourselves. Okay. And when those parts feel heard and seen and safe, what happens is a shift happens. I don't know if you remember listening to Kesley. Kesley suddenly was able to float above these things and have these insights. And you can't forget those insights. Those insights will be there. And you automatically change. Your behavior changes. You don't have to like remember to put your shoes by the door and all those habit changing stuff. You just change. You know, because you just met a part of you that was scared, and you took care of yourself, and now you're not scared anymore, right? And it's not like gonna happen overnight. So the first time I sat on my mat and I tried this process, it took me 3 weeks to even figure out what the discomfort is. Where is it, you know? And I cry so hard because it's the first time I've ever met myself. The first time I ever met that part of myself. I cried so hard I couldn't continue to step 2, right? So, and I do this every day still. And now it's more like a 10-minute process. So it is a practice. It's a very powerful daily practice. So where do these discomforts and voices come from? Complicated chart, but all this is saying is the voices and discomforts come from one event. And usually it comes when I ask my clients to just tune into the voice or the discomfort, they will always land at an event at a certain age. Okay. And now there's people who call this trauma healing. There's people who talk about trauma. If let's say if a client if I can tell I'm trained I'm a trauma informed coach. So I understand the trauma architecture, but most of the folks that I work with, they're not dealing with an acute trauma like a car accident or something like that. You know, there's people I would send them to work on that first before we talk about leveling up at work, leveling up in any aspect of their lives. We need healing for those really acute types of trauma. But the trauma architecture that I typically work with is two types: developmental trauma or wounding experiences or threatening experiences, or it's collective or intergenerational. And those are my most familiar ones that I have dealt with my whole life. And so I chose to work with this. High achievers have a lot of this typically. And so let me break it down a little bit. What's developmental trauma? So developmental trauma is age 0 to 7, usually, typically, right? And I'm sorry if somebody's like here that's really well versed in this. I'm going to talk about it simply, since this is not a trauma course. So things that happened that made you feel threatened, it threatened your survival during that time before you were 7. And many of these threatening or traumatic experiences are actually precognitive. What I mean is your brain's not fully developed yet at 1. So when things are happening to you, your body, your nervous system is the one that's receiving it. And so let's say that 3 years old, right? You didn't clean up your room. Let's say 5, you didn't clean up your room. I have a 5-year-old, so this is all very fresh for me. She didn't clean up your room. We talked about this, and you just, so in the old days, like in the 60s, maybe 50s, right? Or like my parents' generation, what they would say is, Mom might say, you just watch. You didn't clean up your room. I'm going to tell Dad and watch what she does. That's a threatening experience. Now, threatening experiences are very personal and relative. She might say that to my brother, and my brother is like, whatever, I'll clean up my room. Me, I was like, oh my God, Dad's going to hit me. I'm going to be abandoned. They're going to think I'm not good enough. And it starts to threaten my survival instinct. My nervous system kicks in, fight, flight, or fawn. Then I have a belief that gets developed unbeknownst to me. It's stored in my body because my mom didn't know how to help me process it. And then I create automatic reactions. So I fawn. That's my fawning is just doing whatever people tell me to do and please them, right? So I became my Enneagram, if anybody is into Enneagram, is a helper, right? So I do whatever, and to the point where it's not even good for me. I just keep doing things to please people, right? So that's, again, an example of developmental trauma. Collective intergenerational trauma. By the way, I want to put a fine point on, you're not responsible for your developmental trauma, but you can heal it. And then you'll become way more powerful and come into the essence of who you truly are, right? I have clients that actually, recently I'm meeting a lot of people who have birth trauma, right? So recently I worked with a woman who, she's in her 50s and she keeps saying, I keep procrastinating is how she described it. And then we worked through the steps. And at the end, what we met was her baby self, her in a birthing room. Her mother is screaming, all these things are happening. And she just kept saying, I'm not ready. She's in the event like Cassidy was. And she just kept saying to me, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. And then when she came out of the process, the 4 steps, I said, that sensation that you kept telling me here in your throat, when do you have you felt that before? And she said, my whole life. Anytime I'm about to do something new, it comes up and then I just freeze. I can't do it. I go have a snack. or get distracted with something. And she called that procrastination. You know what? She was beating herself up her whole life. She really wants to pursue this new career now. Her kids are out of the house. She finally can do it. And I said, so we have to have self-compassion for that part of her. She did not create this behavior loop, right? So she didn't mean to self-sabotage when she's about to try something new, like create a website for her business or whatever. It's just that the sensation stopped her. So once we connected with that, it no longer had power. And also she had so much compassion for her mother and what she was going through. Everything softened, okay? Collective intergenerational trauma is very similar. I take clients back and they're having experiences their grandpas had. Now there's epigenetic studies to show that traumatic experiences or wounding experiences can create reactions for 3 generations or more, and then it becomes just like kind of uncomfortable after 7 generations. It becomes a preference after 7, but for 3 generations, you still have reactions to those things that kind of cause the threatening experience, things that smell like it or look like it or sound like it, right? So, for example, my grandpa escaped the Cultural Revolution. My family's got this every single one. We have the same behavior loop. You know, we have this intergenerational trauma of scarcity-based behavior, reactions to the world. And it's very tiring. I had it when I was an entrepreneur the first time, you know, and I just worked my ass off because everything was scarce. It's a horrible place to live. No matter how much money we were making, it didn't matter because my life was freaking hollow, you know? So the reason I examined this is because I don't want to pass this down to my daughter. I wanted the intergenerational trauma to end here with me, right? So I had to do the healing. So when experiences are unprocessed, Lynn, in this loop and you're caught here, you're going to always have limiting points of view. So you really do have to heal, like Cassie just did today. She had to go back to the original event, the earliest she can remember, really relive that experience through the adult eye and reconcile.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think you answered that question so beautifully. We all have those voices and we think they're just us, but they're really not. They're linked to an experience and they're linked to maybe a 0 to 7 trauma event, right?
Yeah, and sometimes it's from previous generations, collective trauma. You know, I belong to a group of people, immigrants, I would identify it, or women, right? Sometimes it's intersectional. And we've had beliefs brought on to us that made us feel unsafe in the world. And that has impact the same way that developmental trauma has impact on us, right? So we move around the world with those fears around, and it must be healed.
So I want to ask another question if I can, or just make a comment, because I think this is something that distinguishes your work from other people. We've all hacked our way of trying to deal with these voices, these trauma experience, these unhealed wounds, whatever they be.
Mm-hmm.
And conventional wisdom, you know, and maybe it's just our nervous system saying, I'm going to fight this, I'm going to challenge this, I'm going to, you know, we're so used to turning off lights and saying, I'm going to turn this one off. But you're actually telling us to befriend.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw you do that with Kesley, and I heard you doing that with your parts that came over to the meditation. Can you talk to that a bit more?
Yeah. So these voices that come up, I'm not good enough, you know, they're going to do this, these fears that have like already outcomes that it's imagined, right? It's like, if you do this, this bad thing will happen. You take a risk, you know, like the other day I was sending an outline to a collaborator who's way more famous and well known, you know her, than me. And I'm like, we're creating this project together. And it's the first time I'm sharing anything with her. And the voices were like, you know, like she's gonna know, she should have called Brene Brown or, you know, Lynn, you know, someone who's more accomplished, better than you, and da 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 da. And she's going to, you know, finally realize you're not good enough. See, Cassie, I have that too. You're not good enough. You don't belong in this league with her, right? So the voices come up, and what are they doing when they do that? Is they're just trying to protect me, right? It's part of my belief architecture, how to stay safe, how to not be exposed, how to have the things that I want, right? I want to do this course with her. I want, to be operating at this level,
Yeah.
but those voices are telling me, look, you had some unresolved stuff in the past, and you need to resolve it, basically. So what happens if we push it down, right? If we push it down, we're pushing a part of ourselves down, away. So we can't be our whole selves.
Yeah. So
So important to not run away, from those voices. Actually, we want to move toward them.
yeah, and I know one of the most effective things you did with me, there were two that stand out as a highlight. It was a moment when the child clicked into integration, and my 3-year-old was no longer severed from self because of abandonment.
Mm.
Prior to that, though, the first thing that you did when we worked together is you took me through a belief assessment. And I've written about this, it's in my book, it's on my blogs. I have a strong belief and philosophy that we have to address these beliefs because we've bought into these voices and they've turned into beliefs. Can you tell folks about this belief assessment? Because if anyone wants to work with you, I assume you'd probably be taking them through something like this, right?
Yeah. So what we kind of did today with the demo with Kesley is we just jumped right in, right? But if people were coming to me and they're like, I think I have a belief architecture that's not serving anymore. Usually people have an instinct about that because they've heard those voices a lot, right? So so what I do is I actually have an example of this unconscious belief. So I actually take them. So we did a really quick kind of meditation exercise, but what I do with people is I take them into their unconscious, all the way down to the unconscious. And the unconscious has a lot of information stored about our past. We don't have access to that in our brain because what happened when we were experiencing those kind of wounding experiences or traumatic experiences when we were younger, our body actually sends all the energy to our vagus nerve, to our nervous system, and it reserves maybe about 10% of the energy to the brain. So our logical parts don't work, our memory parts don't really work when we're in that fight flight mode. And so what I need to do if I want to know, like, what are we working with here, is I actually take people down. We do a meditative experience, which you did, in all the way back into the unconscious, and we ask the unconscious some questions. So I have a set of beliefs, it's about 20, that most people are working with in some way or another, and we actually have the unconscious react when I bring those things up. And then we have a small set of beliefs that we think might be in the way, and then we kind of go through this 4-step process with them, right? And usually about 8 sessions, we would have worked through the beliefs that we've identified, right? And so at that point, most people start to see like really big shifts in their lives. And so what I say is like, well, tell your partners or your family, like if you've been like someone like me, like when I first started to shift from the yes girl, anything you want girl, doesn't matter, I don't matter girl, my husband was actually like, wow, like you just suddenly been so confident and like you're not just doing things anymore, and it actually affects the people around us when they're like, what's going on? He actually was like, are you leaving me? I'm like, no, I'm just operating more as my full self, right? And it kind of automatically happens. So what I try to do, if people have a sense but they don't know what they're working with, then we go through this unconscious belief assessment. And then we might say, okay, we can work through, maybe there's 5 that really came up. And usually when we talk about it, people know. They're like, oh yeah, that's the one. And then we go through the process. And my goal is to have them gain the skill set. So we're working with the beliefs and we're dissolving them, but at the same time, we're also helping you gain the skills so you can do it on your own. So for Kesley, what I would have liked for her to do is have this process kinesthetically anchored into her body. So when she does this, I do this is my gesture. I automatically kick into my creative courage process, the 4th step, and I just do it. I can do it with standing there in the room. I can do it on stage. I can do it in a meeting room. I can do it at a negotiating table. No one knows it's happening, but I'm doing it. I'm going to visit that child. I have a container, a safe container that is like a beach. I help my clients create these containers too, these kind of full self containers.
Right.
And they have all their parts hanging out there. So when we kinesthetically activate wherever we are, we can go into the process.
Yeah.
But it starts here.
Does. Okay, thank you for that. I know we're at time, so some of you may have to jump off. We're going to keep recording and we're going to do a couple of things where I'd love to give, if you're listening and you see that you have an opportunity to bring something into a session with Liya, please do. And in a moment, we'll show how to do that. Right now, though, is we may have room for just 1 or 2 questions. And Alicia, thank you for that. Yes. We need help to take away the power of the negative and to integrate the positive and the actual truth. So who has a question? You're welcome, Parker. Thank you for being with us. Who has a question that you might want to pose to Liya? And I would just invite you to come off mute and ask. No, we've been fed and we've been standing on hallowed ground today with Liya's story and Kesley's story. So it might be hard to conjure up a question, but you can also put it in chat. Yeah, go ahead, Omar.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing all that and being vulnerable. I've done similar processes with other people myself. I don't know. I learned it somewhere. There's a lot of separation that happens when you're in trauma, where part of you stays in the past, and then part of you is growing up, and then you feel kind of not whole because part of you from the trauma has been left behind, and you go back to that child and grab him and take him with you, and then you feel more whole.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is I've never ever thought about it in a way that, we've all have that trauma from the ages of 0 to 7, which is so powerful, and to tap into that. But my question would be, is this something that I can do on my own? Like just follow the procedure that I just witnessed and sort of in my meditation, go through the processes of fear? Because I have so much fear and insecurity. And I know exactly where it's coming from, but maybe like go into it when I'm meditating, kind of go into those processes with myself and see where I end up, because I've never really gone there. I'm so scared because I get really stuck, and and oftentimes when I'm with Lynn on our chats, I tell her I feel stuck. I feel stuck.
And Omar, so it's a process, right? So I had shared before that when I first started doing this, just parts of it, because it's a system that I created based on like 12 different things, right? Parts work and somatic work and manifestation, trauma-informed manifestation, etc. So when I first started doing parts of these, like I said, like I couldn't even, just the sensation alone was too overwhelming. I live such a disembodied life. Like I rely on my intellect so much my whole life that feeling body sensations for the first time was just like, I couldn't feel it. I was so scared, actually. I was like, am I the only person in the world that has no sensations? Like, am I dead inside? Like I had those real questions. And so for me, it was helpful to have someone guiding me the first few times. But ultimately, what I want folks to be able to do is to be on a cushion and do it themselves, to get to a point where you can, in 10-minute sessions, go through this process and be unblocked, right? And work with any blocks. Because like, I don't want you to, like, most of my clients, what I don't want them to do is rely on me. Like, because the most challenging situations come up when we're not around, when I'm not around.
Right.
When Lynn's not around. So we want to train you to do that. Now, if you're scared, grab a couple of sessions and then try it on your own and see if the fear goes away, to just engage with the process to begin with, right? And then once the fear goes away of engaging in the process, then it's just really kind of getting used to the discomfort. It's not fun.
No,
it's not fun, but it's so impactful.
Yeah, and I love where you're bringing this. What I've learned, Omar, is being able to use it more as a practice when things come up, so that when the really heavy things come up, you're there, you're ready. And then that might require that you take a couple of sessions from Liya. It might require that you come back and listen to this recording and you do it on your own. Whatever it takes. For me, my advice is make it a practice and deal with it, so that when something emotional comes up, you've practiced enough that you can slip into using it instead of forgetting that you have it because you're emotionally hijacked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Omar, actually, just to mention one more thing, is that I used to tell people, I do all this work, like I do medicine journeys and all this work, but I can't meditate. I used to tell people that I can't meditate. It's too painful to meditate. Now I love it. And I never worked on meditation. Just one day I was like, I want to sit on the cushion, and it became more and more enjoyable, because I think that meditation brought those sensations, those discomforts up, and I didn't have a system or a practice to hold it, So, yeah, so it's a practice, just like meditation.
Thank you. Let's take one more question from Alicia, and then I want you to share with us, Liya, if people want to connect with you, how to do that. So Alicia, go ahead.
So oftentimes I know it's beneficial if we are able to go back and talk to the person that helped to create the limiting beliefs that we have, or that have wounded us or created the trauma. What is your recommendation when that person is no longer available to us or accessible to us, or they have passed away? What is your suggestion of how we help to heal that when we don't have the ability to, I don't want to use the word confront, but have a conversation with the person that has caused the damage?
Alicia, thank you for asking that. That's such a, wow, I can really tell you all are really engaged in this. Thank you. It's such a timely question, because I actually have a friend whose mother passed away, and she really is in pain for not having reconciled with her. And the good news is, it's about us. It's about our experience, not theirs. So if we did the exact same thing, like Cassie went back to the kindergarten event, we went back to whatever the events were, where maybe the things didn't happen the way we would ideally want, right? So we go back in with our eyes closed, we call that event in, and we actually can interact with that version of ourselves and interact with the folks around, and whoever that person is maybe causing the pain, and we can find resolution by doing that. So this is actually it got me really going this weekend when I heard about my friend's pain, because I'm like, the movies, the films, whatever, who's spreading this is telling us you have to directly resolve it or confront the person in order for you to heal. That is not true, because the pain was not caused by the person. The pain was caused by a perception we had about the event. And it's very much ours, And there's other modalities that will help you go and, reconnect with that person, and et cetera. And I think those are great to engage with. I've done that through medicine ceremonies, breath work, et cetera. But in this modality, you can still do the healing and resolution without that person being present. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, did that help, Alicia?
You are. So interestingly enough, my experience was the same as I don't want to pronounce her name wrong, Kelsey's. And it was something that I had an epiphany about a week and a half ago, and I've been processing it. The person calls me mental pain. Oh, that's my thing. I don't know if you all saw the balloons. I got something on my iPad. I need to turn off. There should be no balloons. The person calls me physical pain and mental pain.
Okay.
And so there is the part of me that wants to be able to understand why. And there is the part of me that knows that I can't get an answer to that. I may not even be able to understand, or they may not even be able to give me an answer. But I'm working on that part of me that feels that need for that. And so what you said makes sense, but it's not what I want. And so I guess that's what at this point, what I really need to do is you to tell me, Alicia, how to get over what I want when I know it's something that I can't have, maybe. I don't know.
Well, and I would encourage you to, I take people, I do this one modality, which I didn't talk about, called timeline therapy, and we go back to the event, okay? And we go you're in a bit of a light trance, and it kind of mimics the breathwork medicine experience. And I've, every time, saw people interact with the person and get to know them better. And there were conversations that happened, and they were able to see more clearly what was going on. And and so that's actually what, when I talked about acute trauma, different things like that, there many perpetrators of acute trauma are not present when we're doing healing. So I just want to put the hope out there that it's possible. And I don't think that you're not going to find resolution. I think that you'll be able to revisit that event, at least finding resolution for yourself. And a lot of times there is forgiveness and clarity that can be had as well.
Yeah, so it sounds like I just need to spend more time in the event in order for me to be able to get there, because I could clearly see it. I did it when you were doing it with Kelsey. And so I need to spend the time in the event.
Good. Now, Alicia, I want you to be held when you're doing that. If there was physical, emotional pain inflicted, I do want you to be guided, even if it's not me. I think like having someone hold space for that and guide you to make sure you do get those resolutions and confrontations that you want.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for showing up. Again, honoring this hallowed space that Liya and Kesley have created together and that you've been part of. Liya, show us next steps if there's someone that wants to reach out.
Oh, yeah. You can find me. Eventually, they can find me on your website, right? But for now, you can find me on my website, liyajames.com, LIYAJAMES.com. Take a screenshot. And we'll be sending this recording out so folks will get this, right, Lynn?
Yes, we'll be sending it out. You'll get it again. Yeah.
Yeah. Or email SoulSalt, info@SoulSalt, and get in touch with me. So there's lots of ways.
Yes, you have not lost your you have not lost your chance to talk to Liya. Like we mentioned, we're bringing her on staff. This is such a needed modality. I've needed it. Shannon D has gone through it. There are times when we can't continue, either because our integrity tells us that there's something we need to clean up on aisle 17 or something, or we can't continue because it keeps hanging on to us like a ball with a chain attached to our ankle, something like that. And so we're all wise and humble when we come to Liya and work on getting released from something that's impeding our best self from shining forward. So Liya, we're honored you're here. We know that you're now officially part of the staff and will be on the website soon. We appreciate those of you who have attended. You'll get the recording, and I hope that the rest of your day is one where you live in this space and you know you are loved, and you know that there's a community around you, and that there's hope, and that your best self can shine. The light in you will always outshine the dark that you've experienced. So, Liya, thank you.
Beautiful.
Thanks for everyone that was here. And until next time.
And thank you to Kesley for
Yes.
her courage.
Yes.
To help us learn. Thank you.
Her middle name is Kelsey Courage.
Mm-hmm.
Kesley Courage. And we won't say her last name because it's not on her placard there. All right, everyone. Have a good
Thank you,
rest of the day.
Lynn.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.